There was a argument here. I was sitting right here on Shabbos without the computer, of course, and my father-in-law got into an argument with someone else here, a friendly one about how to relate to Jews who are off the derech. To begin, let's just say a parsha note. It says at the beginning of the parsha in Toldos, what does it say? Rivka is described as what? Ahoth lavan ha'arami lo liisha. Well, first it says uh, Isaac was 40 years old. B'kahtoeth Rivka, Bath Bithuel ha'arami, mi Padan Aram, the daughter of Bithuel the Arami. Interesting enough, Bithuel was the son of Nahor. Nahor was an Ivri by all measures. Nahor was Abraham's brother, but already his son, who's growing up in Aram and born there, so he's already an Arami. And Rivka is then described as Ahoth Lavan ha'arami lo lisha, and she is the sister also of Lavan the Aramite. Okay, both her father and brother are called the Aramites. So that's Rivka's claim to fame, is she's known as daughter of Bethuel the Aramite and sister of Lavan the Aramite. And then it says, Rashi says, I don't know what this teaches us. At the end of the parsha, it says that Isaac sent Jacob back to Haran, go find a wife, and go to the house of who? Bethuel and Lavan. Go back to Lavan's house. Bethuel is probably dead now. So go back to Bethuel, who is Achi Rivka, Aim Yaakov Esav. What's Lavan? He is the sister of Rebecca, mother of Yaakov and Esav, Jacob and Esau. By the way, look in old transliterations, how they spell Esau's name. With a U. Why is it spelled with a U? Because the ancient people who knew Hebrew and Latin and other related European languages, Greek is not necessarily related, but they used the W equivalent, or the U. It used to be just like in Hebrew, one letter. Like we have Vav for U, W, and V. So once upon a time, everybody was pronouncing Esau like it's supposed to be, right? There's a kamatz and then a Vav there. It's not a vet. No one ever said Esav until modern bad transliterations. Either way, so what's Rivka now? What's Lavan now? He's the brother of Rivka, who's the mother of Jacob and Esau. So what does this teach us? Well, it says that eventually she outshone him. When she was first married, just a young woman, she was known as Lavan's sister. But now Lavan, 98 years later or so, because we say Yaakov got to Haran at the age of 77, and that was 20 years after his parents had been married 20 years before he was born. So this is 97 years after their wedding, and 98 years after the wedding had been arranged, presumably. Meaning that Lavan still, it must be pretty old by the time Yaakov shows up, right? And now Lavan is brother of Rivka, who's the mother of Yaakov and Esav. Why? Because now that's their claim to fame. Yaakov and Esav are already somebodies around the world there, and she is known as the mother of these two great men. And that's Lavan's claim to fame. So my father-in-law said this, and then he said there's an example. For example, Yethro Hothein Moshe, Jethro, father-in-law of Moses, to which I interjected, yeah, and also like Hothein Avi. You could have that title also. That's how, he's the one who brought it up. That's someone's claim to fame as being the father-in-law of Moses. I said, so you have also a privilege. Okay. So they got into an argument. This fellow was saying that, he really doesn't like certain political factions here in Israel. They're endangering us, as he says. And these people, I don't consider them my brothers. I'm very wary of them. We have a civil war coming. And my father-in-law was speaking about his experience and others' experience that he learned about Kiruv Rechokim, even the worst Chilonim and other places, and going to far-flung places like where my father-in-law did Kiruv in South America and other places, North America. Maybe you've heard their whole itinerary before. So, and he brought other experiences from personal stories that he heard, and so you can't give up on them. But I wanted to point out that depending on which Siddur you have, we actually have a prayer concerning renegade Jews. Okay, people, this is just like it's a head scratcher how those rabbis who are protesting against judicial reform could go along with it. No, keep the current system. Don't they pray 3 times a day, at least during weekdays, for judicial reform? So this is another one. We are watching out for certain Jews. There's a prayer that God do away with certain enemies within. But who? Okay, you can't just chas v'shalom classify everybody as an enemy, right? So who are our internal enemies? What do we say? What's the correct nusach there? Okay, so we have Mishumadim. That's one that you have in Siddur Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Teiman? You have a Teiman? That's what it has in the current version? I'm using the older version, the first edition, because it fits in my talis bag nicely. They also have things like Minim. Remember Birkat Minim? There's Meshumadim, Mosrim, and Minim, and Malshinim. So what are these different examples? I should have brought it. I have Rav Tzuriel's Ksav Yad to the first Sidur Eretz Yisrael. He wrote in two other versions there in Shachris. Okay, that he found in other things. I think he was making notes and telling them. So it's good. I guess I've inherited Rav Tzuriel's sitter. That's my claim to fame. Like, I miss him so much. It's really difficult finishing this last kuntris without his input. Everything I put out three things that he looked over, and he gave and he contributed, and this is good, and let's tweak this and all that. Okay, go for it. And the fourth thing I put out, he's like, no, I disagree with your maskana. So write up a letter saying I disagree with everything he wrote here. You saw that? That was the thing about, okay, that was in the Chakira journal. That was the fourth thing. And the fifth thing, he's not even here, so I don't know what to do. It's like the world has gone dark. Yeah. Okay, back to this. Anyway, so he wrote in different versions of this prayer. So who are Malshinim? Those are Jews, those are slanderers, right? But what are they talking about? The better one is that's a later version, Malshinim. It used to be the Minim and the Mishumadim. Excellent third one. Minim, Mishumadim, and Mosarim. What are Minim? Those are the renegade Jews, the Jews who have adopted a new religion. Now, every now and then, Jews have a religion that goes a little bit off the derech, right? Usually, history has shown, we can make a doctorate about this, when does, let's say, a heretical sect actually split from Judaism? They can become something else. When push comes to shove and there are difficulties, there's persecutions, okay? Holocaust, genocide, what Chazal call shmad, do they stick with us or do they not? So people like the Sadducees and let's say the Kuthians, even though they made claim to Judaism, when push came to shove and the Romans were really hurting us, these people just disappeared, or they were like, well, we're not them, we're not Jews. Whereas, for example, Rav Tzuri writes about this, Hasidut, that could have been a schism within Judaism, right? But nowadays, half of Haredi Judaism is what? Hasidic. They basically stuck on. Why? Oh, isn't it problematic? Maybe, but we've gotten used to it. And when, let's say, Holocausting time came, who stuck together? Misnagdim and Hasidim. So that's what Rabbi Soloveitchik told the Lubavitcher Rebbe when he went to the Farbrengen. You know the story? No, I don't know about anything about a window. I know that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, they, by the way, knew each other. They had known each other since they were young men. They went to college together. So Rabbi Soloveitchik was there at the Rebbe's, I think it was the anniversary of Chabad, or his, 40th anniversary or something like that. Well-known story, well documented. The pictures are there. It's been, a piece of history. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that, look, I am basically the heir to the legacy of the Baal Tanya. Okay? Among the descendants and all that, we trace all the way to the Baal Tanya. And you are from, you're a descendant and basically the intellectual heir of Rav Chaim of Volozhin. Okay? So, it's a remain that we have this achdus here. We've now shaken hands. This is the achdus that was always necessary, to something to that extent, to which Rabbi Soloveitchik says, no, that Auschwitz did that. Okay? It was the Holocaust that brought about that achdus. So when we look at groups nowadays, we're going to see whose side are they taking when the Jews are being persecuted. There are some leftist groups among Jews that have already had some crazy religious beliefs, and we see that when this whole war started, whose side are they on? Okay, so there you have it. And there are Mosarim and Mishumadim. A Mishumad is people who basically leave the religion entirely for a different religion, right? That's what a Mishumad is. So we know those people. And the Mosarim. The Mosarim are the people who are using their mouths to, let's say, I don't know, try to get foreign states and courts to persecute our own Jews. Okay? Intervene. Okay, let's bring the Goyim into this. And also the people who, I guess they would get Jews to have their property removed from them. There are people who used to tell the Romans, oh, these people, they have money, tax them more. Things like that. And there's other examples of Mosarim. Basically, the Rambam says that these types of people are really terrible enemies. And I'm not advocating any violence. I'm just pointing out that our prayers officially have this part. This was the last addition to the Shemon Esrei. Remember? Was it 17 brachas and this became the 18th, or was it 18 brachas and this became the 19th? So we are not that inclined to want to make peace with enemies within. Rabbi Sharvit, He's saying, Avinu Malkeinu, Haferat Sath Oyevenu, Mi Bayith Umichutz. Okay, our enemies, both internal and external. And if we know we have that, and it's we pray for their destruction. Why? Because they just haven't get it. Sometimes there's just too much kiruv you can do. I'm still an advocate, by the way, for kiruv, but for, let's say, certain groups who are openly calling for our destruction or aiding and abetting the enemy, they're already too far gone.